Aloha and welcome to Talk Story with John Waihe'e. And we got the premier guests of the year for all of you. And we have with us Governor-elect Josh Green, who will become the what number? You're the eighth governor since seventh governor?
Eighth. Thank you.
Eighth governor since statehood. And in about a week or two, week and a half.
That's right.
So here we are. I'm just going to cut to the chase. And you are governor to me right now because I know what you're going through this 1 month. The month between the election and the actual inauguration is just full of things to do. Tell us a little bit about what you're going through, Gov. You know, it's. I know the people out there just want to get a sense of what happens, right? You know, the election and before inauguration.
Well, thank you so much, Governor, for welcoming me and for being so kind to me and my family and for providing so much excellent advice. First of all, I really think of you so fondly as a mentor. So thank you for that. Right now, we are preparing. We're preparing to do what we can to be servant leaders for the state. And it really means a lot of preparation. The largest challenges right now are some things that people might think very basic. Preparing our kids and our family to make a move. That's a big deal in our household, of course.
Big deal.
Yeah, that's a huge thing because, you know, you love your spouse and your children are going to change their lives too. I have a 15 and a 12-year-old, Maya and Sam. So we're doing that. In fact, I have you on blur because I have boxes in the background and I felt sensitive about doing that, showing you that as I came home to work on that today. So there's the life challenges.
Wait, if you don't mind me asking, how far away from the governor's mansion do you live right now?
We live about 200 yards. I can actually see it out of our window.
Oh, terrific.
But yeah, so it's close by, but we're like a lot of people, you know, regular family, been living in a condo and we're now preparing this incredible move to a beautiful place that was constructed and is an honor to live in. I believe that Mrs. Cayetano had a great role creating this home and, you know, it's going to be something. So there's that piece of life. And of course, important to everyone, I hope, is that we're going to choose a cabinet of heartfelt, thoughtful people.
Yes.
I've begun to do that. Yes. So we have a team, an excellent team inside in my office who I can share with you if you'd like. And then we have the
let's
cabinet.
share that because I know it was, I saw there was a release about the people that you named, and you've got like, really, I believe for the first time in the history of Hawaii, probably, all female staff in your office. That's exciting.
Yes, the initial team that I have that will help me day to day, my chief of staff, Brooke Wilson, who, you know, she grew up with you, and her mother, I believe, worked for you when you were governor, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. And Brooke used to run around the office, and I know she's terribly excited about, in her mind, going home, going back to where she spent a good deal of her youth. Well, not youth, yeah, actually younger than the youth.
Her childhood, yes. She, you know, Brooke, we tease, but you know, Brooke's grown up into this great woman, and she's a super advocate for people, and she's focused on housing, always has been, and that's going to be a big part of what we do. But my team, yes, my first rollout team was all women. We have a woman named Nani Medeiros who's going to be our housing lead, and she's worked tirelessly at this kind of thing with Homemade recently, helped us with our homeless challenges. We have Fele Tao in my office, who's been with me for 18 years, who will be our constituent service leader, and just so many other wonderful women leaders right off the bat. I'm sure a few guys will come along. They are already beginning to also populate our office, but it just so happened that all of the people that we're starting right off the bat are women on our team.
Fantastic. You know, I wanted to ask you, do you, or are you able at this time to have name any of your directors or your cabinet? Have you done that at all yet?
We haven't done that yet. I will. I'll share in broad strokes a little bit, and then we're hoping on December 1st to give the first batch of them. But there will be a couple directors that will stay on from Governor Ige's team, who I've worked very closely with, and I felt had unfinished business that I was already working with, and I wanted some continuity. So there will be a couple of those. I will tell you that there is continuity as far as statewide safety and our kind of military response. I'm very careful to not disrupt that or disrupt our response to Red Hill. So the Deputy Director of Health, for example, Kathy Ho, will be a great holdover and person to stay on. And then we'll begin to announce all of the other directors. There are 18 directors that we have to choose and 18 deputy directors right off the bat. And
Right.
I've been interviewing the people day and night with a wonderful team of leaders from across the state. So we're getting pretty close. I'll have meetings again on, we just finished them for today a few minutes ago, and then much of Friday. And before you know it, we'll be on December 1st, and I'll be able to give people a really good idea. But I want to keep a little bit of, just a little bit of excitement in the air.
Yeah,
So
I know exactly how you feel. I know exactly how you feel. Having been in that position myself, I really did want to do that, keep a little bit of excitement in the air and have an announcement. And, because in a way, that is going to be the first, I guess, the first prelude to your administration. I mean, when people get to see who your cabinet members are, they get to get some sense of where you might be heading. So, as a person, and since I have you here, I'm going to sort of take advantage of it. Governor, what do you consider? And this is going to sound kind of elementary, I know, having gone through an election and having to answer more questions. But people really want to know, what are the issues that you find as particularly compelling for your attention at this time?
So there's a list of them, and I'll give them to you kind of in the order of the things that keep me up at night and the focus that I've gleaned from our people all across the state. I always start with housing. I really feel strongly that housing is a human right, and that we have to do all that we can to build housing right away, stop people from having illegal Airbnbs right away, and solve some of the challenges that we've had making Department of Hawaiian Homeland housing available right away. So housing is so central to our ability to live here and have our children stay here that I'm going to spend a great deal of our energy and attention focusing on that. And that's why I did let slip yesterday that Nani is going to be our housing coordinator, because she had heretofore, we have not had that position in the cabinet. And I want to rise that up to the level of cabinet responsibility so that she and others can coordinate, like our Department of Land and Natural Resources director, like the individuals that actually work at HHFDC. These acronyms may not mean a lot to people, but where we make decisions about large housing complexes, and also our homeless coordination. I really wanted to get a jump start on that. And I had some experience as lieutenant governor, but mostly I've been listening to people that build houses, that have experience. That's the number one priority right now, though there are so many things.
But the idea of putting somebody in to coordinate all of that, because one of the idiosyncrasies of state governments is a lot of times we have structured government to be almost like silo driven. Various agencies handle different aspects of something. But yes. I gather from what you just told me that you intend to put much more effort into coordinating all of those various activities.
You hit the nail on the head, Governor. That's exactly right. So I will have this professional, Nani, I will have her in a space where she can insist that the director of Department of Hawaiian Homelands sits with the director of our DLNR team, the land use team, that sits with our economic development team. So they're all together, and our energy coordinator, you name it, so that when they make a decision, they make it in real time together. And I will attend those meetings or have my chief of staff attend them so that we can make a decision right then. And I think that that's important because you're right. If it's in silos, it can take weeks, months, years even to get solutions done. And it's no fault of anyone. It's just the world got so complicated that I think you have to do this if you want to see results more quickly.
Hawaiian Homes got $600 million from the legislature. They've got a timetable, I understand, to put out some kind of plan. How active have you been since the election in just seeing where they are and making sure that whatever these deadlines are, that they're met? Because I'm assuming that's going to be an important part of your housing strategy.
Yes, you have a crystal ball right into our meetings for sure, Governor. That is central in every way. We have about 2 years. There might be some opportunity for minor extensions, but 2 years to use that money. And there's even a little more than the $600 million because there was already, I believe, about $175 million in the capital improvement budget that was intended to go towards this housing. So we will have someone soon chosen to lead Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Mr. Waihe'e is retiring, and he has an excellent deputy, a young man named Tyler Gomes, and there are others, also people that have been thinking and working on projects, working on plans and projects to submit. So we're expecting that proposal from them sometime right after the swearing in, which is around December 5th, forgive me. And already we're putting together supplemental plans to make sure that we can do that. Now, remember, I also have a small ace in the hole, not so small, actually. The Lieutenant Governor that is Lieutenant Governor-elect Sylvia Luke was at the front line, the forefront of appropriating that $600 million. And so she is also, as my partner, and she's going to be a right-hand person to me, she will be able to help also guide our larger expenditures. So we're really well positioned. You mentioned it earlier when we were chatting. You know, it's lucky that I have the opportunity to be Lieutenant Governor right across the hall right now. So there's a little less impediment to get going. It really gives us kind of a running start, like you're in a relay race and you're catching that baton and then running. So you're already running partially full speed. That's kind of how we are, as opposed to starting from a scratch.
Well, you know, talking about Sylvia Luke being your Lieutenant Governor, I know that you and she have developed an excellent working relationship. Tell us a little bit about what her area of emphasis might be in your administration.
Yes, it's actually very well described already between us. She's strong and smart and super. So she's going to take on early education and help us build out the early education classroom statewide. We have $200 million set aside to do that, and that's going to be meaningful. In addition to that, she has relationships downstairs in the legislature with the House and Senate members. So I have some of those relationships, but she's been working with them all these last 4 years too. So she will be very helpful making sure our budget moves forward. Beyond that, she also is interested in working in broadband technology, which is a critical thing for our state and all of our people, because broadband connection helps many things. It helps us be better educators in the community, especially rural areas. It helps us have access to telehealth. It helps us just do everything, really, helps our economy. So those are her areas. I'll give you a secret here, breaking news. We're going to ask for some additional positions for the Lieutenant Governor to support her in her office. We'll also add, if it's the pleasure of the legislature, a few extra positions in the governor's office to work on things like the housing crisis. We'll talk a little bit more about homelessness, perhaps. These are things that are rising up, and we want to be extremely active these 4 years, not taking anything for granted, because people deserve results. They're restless after going through COVID, and I think we have to get results.
Well, we're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back in about a minute. And in the meantime, when we get back, let's talk some more about your visions, really, for the state of Hawaii. I mean, you're already getting me extremely excited about the next 4 years. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Talk Story with John Waihe'e and our guest this afternoon, Governor, really, Josh Green, and his exciting vision for the state of Hawaii. You know, Governor, one thing I've known about you, as long as I've known you, is that you got this tremendous energy, and it shows. You know, you want to get out there, and I know you're a hands-on type person. So, hands-on, what are your ideas about how we improve the situation for the Department of Health, for example? I mean, I know that that's an area which you have not only a great deal of expertise, you actually have a great deal of concern about, you know. So.
I do. So we'll pick a director of health. I already have that person picked on my notebook paper here, but we'll announce them in a couple days. What we need to do is, number one, get more physicians and nurses and social workers into the system. So I'll be proposing a universal loan repayment program. So anyone who goes through and becomes a trained social worker or psychologist or nurse practitioner or nurse or physician will be able to apply and very likely get loan forgiveness provided we fund it. It's about a $25 million a year program over time, but I will tell you, it will save us hundreds of millions of dollars per year in not having to transfer patients or misdiagnoses or have people get more sick than they should be and end up in the hospital. So that program is going to be signature to what we do. It'll also be very focused on mental health care because behavioral health, which means mental health care and drug addiction treatment, has really needed some help for some time. We do have a new state hospital, which is improving, but that's not enough really. So behavioral health is going to be a big part of what we do. And also I'm aware that some of the safety net hospitals, the HHSC, that's Hawaii Health Systems Corporation hospitals, need an upgrade. So for example, Hilo Hospital is likely to need about a $50 million expansion to care for all the people, in that case, in eastern side of Big Island. So these are some of the fundamental things that will change the system for the better. We're also going to increase Medicaid reimbursements, and we have been working on that quietly with the Healthcare Association and Hilton Rathel to also make it a little easier if people are poor to find a doctor or a nurse to care for them. And these are the central parts to fix the system. The final thing I would tell you is this, Gov. The Hawaiian community, as you're more than aware, because you've been perhaps the best leader that we've ever had for the Hawaiian people, they suffer chronic disease.
You're going to be the best. In 4 years, they're going to call you the best. So let's shoot for that target.
I will be a humble surrogate, but never reach up the levels of you, for sure. But I will tell you that the Hawaiian people, like my wife's family, they suffer chronic disease 10 years earlier than most others in Hawaii, and they suffer fatalities on the average 8 years earlier. And that's something that should be erased, that disparity. So I intend to work very closely with Queens Hospital and our Department of Health and Hawaii Pacific Health, and frankly, whoever else will help us to decrease or eliminate that health disparity. And that means extra healthcare access and providers in communities that have not had care. So that is a signature part of what we'll do. I'm doing it really in honor of my mother-in-law who departed when Jamie was 9. She lost her mom to stomach cancer.
Wow.
And that is a story that so many families have if they're Hawaiian. They lose a loved one too soon. So that's got to stop. And that's kind of the underpinnings of our response on the healthcare side.
Well, I don't think people realize what an advocate, I think, I realize, that Jamie actually is. You know, because, you know, oftentimes the spouses never get the credit that they deserve for advocating positions and issues. And I know that Jamie's really up there on Native Hawaiian issues and talking to you about it. So got a fantastic team. Now, one area where all of this sort of comes together, obviously, is homelessness. You know, there's unfortunately too many Hawaiians that are homeless. At the same time, we've got homeless problems because of our mental health care system not functioning enough. And I know this is an area that you particularly had an interest in doing something about. So,
yes, it is. So people ask me what the top priority is, and I say housing, but I think our top moral priority, our moral imperative is to help people who are really suffering suffering and they are now homeless. So as you said, it's right. The Hawaiian community represents, somewhere between 20 and 25% of our population, depending on how you view us, but has twice that representation amongst the homeless community. And there's 8,000 to 10,000 individuals every night in the state of Hawaii that don't have a roof over their head. So what we will do is we will build 12 kauhale. We use the word kauhale respectfully. It means village somewhat loosely, but a community where we build tiny homes and we have a place for people to go if they are down and out, if they need social services. We'll be doing that. We've built 2 of them already. A third is underway over in Waihe'e with Twinkles, and they're doing that privately, but with some support. By doing this, it gives you a space in each community where people can go, and it's been described as an ohana zone. Really, that's just a way to say a safe place. And you begin the process of solving this problem by doing that while you build houses, while you put extra rentals and make them available into the market, while you provide the right amount of support financially to people to get them on their feet. And there are a few other tricks that we may try. There are lots of innovations that we've studied. Some people at least describe safe places for people to go and be with their vehicle or with camping or what have you, if they're somewhere in the process of finding a permanent home. And that would help too, because it restores some dignity and some safety to people's lives. But we're really focused on this. And you can imagine from the top, if we do succeed in building housing, if we do succeed with the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's build out and appropriation, and we succeed, which we will, to build these tiny villages, you'll start seeing a very visible change in Hawaii for the better. And I think that will give people immense pride.
Well, I tell you, the other area, obviously, you got a new superintendent of schools. And I know that's an area that you also concerned about. So tell us a little bit about what you are inclined to see happen with the Department of Education.
Yes, the Department of Education, I respect them a great deal. And we've done one thing, which I think is going to already help, and that's we've increased teacher pay quite significantly. We've had a hard time retaining our teachers. And historically, we've every year had 1,200 or more teachers, vacant spaces, like empty spaces in the DOE for educators. And that is a problem because not only do kids then get a substitute perpetually, they don't get their kind of continuity of education. So by raising up teacher salaries, that's going to keep a lot of teachers employed. It's a good investment and it's a great investment for our kids. Also, I'd like to do what we would call a primary promise program, which is put an additional 200 teachers and teachers' aides into classrooms where the students are suffering kind of delay. They're not reading up to their speed. As soon as you get reading scores up and reading competency up, children tend to thrive. And our keiki then go on to much better experiences in middle school and high school and college when they can. That's a big deal. Finally, I think of education from age 3, which is the pre-K education, which like I said earlier, that Lieutenant Governor Luke is going to take on all the way up to about age 20, 2 years of community college. I'd like to make that as seamless a process as possible for anyone who wants it. So
fantastic.
When you do all of those things, you really ultimately 5-10 years down the road see a lot better profile of how people live their lives and how much more money they can make and therefore take care of themselves. So that's the plan. And it just is about
support all of this vision really, which is phenomenal. I mean, we're going to need to have an economy that works for people. And one of the areas, obviously, is our tourism. And there's a lot of this talk about regenerative as opposed to extractive tourism. Tell us your thoughts on the travel industry and what we may be expecting to see from a green administration.
Yes, thank you, Gov. Well, it's already begun. Currently, we're already seeing some changes because we're going to be a little bit more culturally competent. And I believe that CNHA is going to be more engaged. And I think that means that tourism will be more thoughtful. And I've always felt that if we're going to celebrate the magnificence of Hawaii and its culture, and not just, beauty, but also its people, that should be really incorporated into the experience. And so we should be more deliberate about that. I think it is okay if Hawaii remains expensive, provided that money comes from travelers and it goes back into protecting our culture and our environment. I've proposed something that is a little bit controversial, and we'll see what happens. And that's what's called a climate impact fee or a green fee. It's being debated right now whether or not you can legally do it. You can certainly charge fees at venues and natural sites. But the reason for that, and if you charged, say, $50 a person that was an adult over age, say, 12 or 15, you could have hundreds of millions of dollars to keep our parks perfect, to deal with shoreline erosion from climate change and the impact of this 9 or 10 million people that come. It also would serve to decrease just so slightly the number of people that come on the very lower end and take a lot of space and impact our environment quite a lot, but don't give back very much. I think that this actually is something that's worked extremely well in a lot of different places, like smaller island states like Palau and other places. They can do it because they're a country. We're debating whether or not you can do it in kind of full compliance with the Constitution. But I'll tell you, it's a good idea because.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and frankly, my thinking was that we charge a landing fee on the airplane for everybody who lands in Hawaii anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know personally what the difference would be by finding the right mechanism. Sometimes the problem with dealing with lawyers, and that's one, and I'm going to confess this, is that we deal with labels. If you can get something labeled right, you might find the solution to your problem, because it takes us into an area. I know we're going to run a little bit over time, but this is really exciting. And, you're Governor Green. So tell us about the Governor Green, the Green Governor of Hawaii, which you started to get into, which is our environment, our resources, and climate change, and all of the great issues that we here in the islands need to be aware of.
Yes, so you just mentioned one of the last two things I'll quickly talk about, which is we've spoken about housing and homelessness as key priorities. We need to have the best climate plan in the country to show that we are most serious about renewable energy, more serious than anyone else in the world, so that we lead by example. And then finally, maybe this should come up as a conversation for an entire show at some point at your pleasure, Governor.
You're definitely invited back, by the way. It's your schedule. So finish your thought, though, but I want to tie that down. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. So yes, I believe that it is time to heal culturally. And as a physician, I think people may project appropriately that is going to be a focus that I always have, which is to bring people back together. And I think that we've seen a time where trust has eroded, and I understand it's very rightfully justified that trust has eroded between some of the Hawaiian people and those who have come over the decades to Hawaii. And I don't blame anyone, because some promises have not been kept in very recent years on Hawaiian homelands, on ceded lands, on some of the issues that have led to the impasse, for example, on Mauna Kea and with the TMT. And what I will do is try to heal that rift. And I think I can be a very impartial leader in this space, because I came to be a healer with the National Health Service. I'm married to a beautiful Hawaiian and Japanese woman. And finally, I do care that people live in peace together. And so I'm hopeful that our approach, by giving the Hawaiian Homelands programs the boost they need, by being respectful of culture and the debts owed to the Hawaiian people, that we will restore that relationship in a proper way.
Just as a follow-up, since you mentioned that, I guess the legislature put together a commission for Mauna Kea. Yes. And have you had any working with that commission, or is that something that you are looking forward to doing, or what's the relation? Where is that situation with regard to yourself?
Yes, I've met several times with the Speaker of the House who took the lead in creating it, and I have met with its chair, and I do intend to support their decisions for the panel that they've chosen to serve on the commission. That will likely be done early on in the session when the Senate comes back to confirm individuals. We'll use the list that have been proposed. And then I will call a special meeting so that I can get a full briefing from all of the members of that commission and those on Mauna Kea in the early months of our administration so that we can move forward respectfully together. That is the purpose. But I'm going to be very focused and, like you said earlier, hands-on, as will Jamie, and as will, of course, our Hawaiian leadership in the cabinet.
Well, fantastic. Governor, I don't know, these are all issues that obviously I personally have an interest in, but tell us what Hawaii is going to be like 4 years from now. I mean, what is it that you see happening that what brings you to this position with as much energy as you have? And I know the sacrifices that the family made, your family made, so that you could be here from my own experience. So tell us, as a result of all of that, where's Hawaii going to be? Where do you want to see Hawaii 4 years from now?
Well, I will borrow a line from some very thoughtful leaders that have been convening lately, and I will say that we will work to restore the soul of Hawaii, which is to say that total respect should be given to the Hawaiian culture as we watch the earth turn and time pass. So we will be able to restore all of those traditions that mean so much to people, whether they were here for generations or even just here for a few years. That's what makes Hawaii special, the cultural traditions and the true, I guess I would say, the true diversity that Hawaii offers. And it is a view that most of the world treasures. That's what we will restore. Our family's a reflection of that, and I will try to honor that tradition as we take on the practical challenges that have emerged in the 21st century, which are housing, homelessness, and climate change.
Well, Governor, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to join us this afternoon. And I want to tell you that personally, I am extremely excited by and looking forward to your administration. I think that you will bring some much needed energy into state government, and that's something that we all will benefit from. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Everyone, I know that this is a special program for Governor-elect Governor Josh Green. Aloha. Thank you.
Mahalo, Governor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.